You know that exact feeling, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we all do.
Your eyes flutter open. The room is still just pitch dark.
Yep.
The air is quiet. And before you're even fully conscious, like before you even remember what day of the week it is, your hand is already reaching over to the nightstand.
Muscle memory.
Exactly. You grab your phone, you tap the screen, and that harsh blue light just hits your face.
It's the worst.
You're looking for a notification, a message, a missed call, just some kind of sign.
Right.
And there is nothing. Just a blank lock screen staring back at you.
And that's when it hits.
Instantly, your stomach drops into your shoes, your chest tightens up like someone just pulled a strap around your ribs, and the loop begins all over again.
It's a brutal way to wake up.
It really is. I mean, you spend your morning shower replaying every single silence in a conversation you had, what, 3 months ago?
Yeah, analyzing every pause.
You spend your train ride to work deep in their Venmo transactions from 2022.
Oh, man, the Venmo stalking.
Right. Trying to figure out who Sarah is with the pizza slice emoji.
We've all been there.
You're scrolling their social media like an addict searching for a clue, a hidden message, just anything. And you keep telling your friends you're over it.
You even tell yourself you're over it.
Exactly. But your mind just completely betrays you every single day.
It is an incredibly painful, just exhausting place to be.
Yeah.
And the very first thing we need to establish for you right now as you listen to this, maybe you're driving or walking or just trying to get through your afternoon.
Right.
We have to establish that you are not weak. You are not pathetic.
That's such an important point.
It is. You are not lacking in discipline or willpower. What you are currently experiencing is one of the most intensely powerful psychological phenomena known to human biology.
Obsessive attachment.
Exactly. You are in the absolute grip of obsessive attachment.
Which is the entire reason we're doing this deep dive today.
Yes.
We've been going through some truly eye-opening source material covering the latest psychology and neuroscience on this stuff.
And the science is fascinating.
It really is. So the mission of this deep dive is to completely reframe what you're going through right now. Because letting go of someone, it isn't about just wishing them well and wiping your memory clean like some sci-fi movie.
Right, like eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. It doesn't work that way.
Exactly. It is a literal, physical rewiring of the neural pathways in your brain.
Literally.
It's about reclaiming your mental real estate, kicking out the squatter in your head, and really rebuilding an unshakable individual identity from the ground up.
So we are going to look under the hood today.
Yeah.
We're going to look at the exact biological and neurological mechanisms that are keeping you trapped in this endless loop.
Because it's a trap.
It's a biological trap. But more importantly, we are going to look at the tactical neuroscience-backed interventions you can use to break those loops.
So no generic advice today.
No, we aren't talking about generic advice like time heals all wounds.
I hate that phrase so much.
Right. It's not helpful when you're in the thick of it. We are talking about utilizing neuroplasticity to force a complete mental and emotional transformation.
So I want to start with the most fundamental question, because I think this is what everyone who is stuck in this loop is asking themselves.
Okay, let's hear it.
If this hurts so much, if it is actively ruining our sleep, destroying our focus at work, and robbing us of our peace of mind, why does our brain force us to keep thinking about this person?
It feels counterintuitive, right?
Totally. Why wouldn't our brain, as a survival mechanism, just shut the thoughts off to protect us from the pain?
Well, to understand the why, we really have to confront a fairly brutal truth.
Okay.
And I know this might be difficult to hear, especially when you are in the thick of the heartbreak, but understanding this is the absolute foundation of getting free.
Lay it on us.
The biological reason you cannot stop thinking about them has absolutely nothing to do with romantic love.
Wait, nothing to do with love?
Nothing.
Because from the inside, it feels like the most profound, soul-shattering love imaginable. It feels epic.
Oh, it definitely feels epic. But the mechanism driving that feeling is actually a psychological and chemical addiction.
A literal addiction.
A literal addiction. Your brain, on a strict neurochemical level, literally does not distinguish between losing a romantic partner and losing access to a highly addictive substance.
That is wild.
It's just chemistry. When you first became attached to this person, your brain started manufacturing and releasing a very specific, highly potent cocktail of neurotransmitters.
The big ones, right. Dopamine, norepinephrine, and oxytocin.
Exactly. That cocktail creates a sense of euphoria, heightened focus on the other person, and an incredibly deep sense of bonding.
Right.
So when that person is suddenly unavailable, like when they pull away or the relationship ends, your brain basically goes into full-blown withdrawal.
It's detoxing.
Yes, it is desperately seeking its next chemical fix.
I want to break down that chemical cocktail a bit, specifically the dopamine part, because I always thought of dopamine as the reward chemical. Like, I eat a piece of chocolate, I get a hit of dopamine.
Right, that's how people usually talk about it.
Right, I get a promotion, dopamine.
Yeah.
But the sources point out a crucial distinction in how dopamine actually operates when it comes to attachment.
Yeah, the misconception about dopamine is super common. Dopamine is not actually the chemical of reward or satisfaction.
It's not.
No, it is the chemical of anticipation.
Anticipation.
Yes, it's the seeking system. Evolutionarily, dopamine doesn't spike when you eat the berry.
Okay.
It spikes when you see the berry bush in the distance to give you the motivation and energy to go get it.
Oh, wow. So it's the craving itself that gets rewarded.
Exactly. The craving drives the action. So apply that to your current situation of this person.
Right.
Every single time you imagine them texting you back, every time you fantasize about running into them at a coffee shop and them looking regretful.
Man, the coffee shop fantasy.
Right. Or every time you try to decipher the hidden meaning behind a song they posted on their story.
Like, why did they post that specific Taylor Swift song?
Exactly. When you do that, you are getting a microscopic temporary hit of dopamine.
Just from thinking about it.
Just from the anticipation. The anticipation of them returning is triggering the chemical, and that hit reinforces the obsessive thinking.
So your brain is literally rewarding you just for hoping they'll come back.
Yes, exactly.
That's incredibly cruel.
It's a glitch in the system, for sure.
I mean, your brain is actively incentivizing you to stay in the loop. It totally explains why we can't just logic our way out of it.
Right, logic doesn't work on dopamine.
You can tell yourself, they treated me terribly, they aren't coming back. But the primitive part of your brain is saying, yeah, but what if they do?
What if?
Here's a little dopamine to keep you waiting by the door.
Exactly.
But why is the brain wired to be this intense? Why is a breakup treated like a catastrophic event?
To understand that, we have to zoom out and look at evolutionary psychology.
Okay, take us back.
Think about the human brain 10,000 years ago, operating on the ancestral plane.
Right, hunter-gatherer times.
Yeah. If you lost your primary partner, or if you were isolated from your bond, you were immediately in severe physical danger.
Because you couldn't survive alone.
Exactly. Losing your partner didn't just mean you were sad and had to listen to sad music in your cave.
Right.
It could literally mean death by starvation, or being eaten by a predator, or dying of exposure to the elements. You needed them for literal physical survival.
So my brain is essentially treating this modern-day breakup, where I am, perfectly safe in my apartment, like I am suddenly stranded in the wilderness without shelter or a fire.
Yes, your ancient limbic system has not received the software update for the modern world.
It's running on old code.
Very old code. It doesn't know about grocery delivery apps or central heating.
Right.
It perceives the absence of this person as a literal immediate life or death emergency. It believes you are going to die.
That's intense.
It is. So it floods your entire system with stress hormones to force you to get up, fix the bond, and go find them.
It's like a hijacked computer operating system.
That's a great way to look at it.
I mean, the physical hardware is totally fine. You're sitting on your couch, you're breathing, you're fed.
Right?
But there's this ancient survival virus running in the background, and it is utilizing 100% of your CPU.
Yes, all your processing power.
You can't open any other programs. You can't focus on a spreadsheet. You can't read a book because the fan is just spinning out of control trying to process this one critical error message.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it.
Yeah.
And if we extend that metaphor, we can actually look at the specific hardware of the brain to see exactly which regions are being hijacked by this virus.
Let's do it. Where do we start?
Let's start with the default mode network, or the DMN.
Okay, I found the research on the DMN from the source material absolutely fascinating.
The key player here.
This is the network that kicks in when we aren't focused on a specific task, right? Like when we're just washing the dishes or driving on a familiar highway.
Right, it's the brain's idling state.
Like a car in neutral.
That's right. In a healthy, well-regulated brain, the DMN is where you daydream, where you plan your grocery list, where you have those brilliant shower thoughts.
It just wanders gently.
Exactly. But in an obsessively attached brain, the DMN is transformed into a torture device.
A torture device.
Yes. Its default setting has been violently reprogrammed to only tune into one single channel, thoughts of the person you lost.
Oh, wow.
So the moment you stop actively focusing on work, the moment the external distraction stops, your DMN automatically defaults back to them.
Just instantly.
Instantly. And every time it does, it paves that neural pathway, making it thicker, stronger, and faster.
That completely explains why the quiet moments are so unbearable.
Yes.
You literally have to keep a video playing constantly just to drown out the DMN. You can't stand the silence.
Because the silence is when the DMN takes over.
But what about that physical feeling?
Which one?
That terrible knot in your stomach, that sense of impending doom. Like you left the stove on, but you can't remember where the stove is.
Oh, that sensation is being generated by your anterior cingulate cortex.
The ACC?
The ACC. It is essentially your brain's error detection system.
Okay, how does that work?
Let's say you're reaching for a glass of water and you knock it off the table. As the glass is falling, before it even shatters, your ACC fires.
It's that sudden jolt.
Yes, that jolt of, oh no, something is wrong, correct it.
Right.
When you are separated from someone you are deeply attached to, your ACC becomes hyperactive. It is treating their absence as a massive fundamental error in your environment.
Like the glass is constantly falling.
Yes. It is an alarm bell ringing at full volume, demanding that you fix the mistake, but you can't.
Which then cascades into the actual physical panic we feel.
Correct. The ACC sounds the alarm, and the amygdala answers the call.
And the amygdala is the threat detector.
Yes, your brain's primary threat detection center. The amygdala perceives the loss as an immediate physical threat.
Like a tiger in the room.
Exactly. It triggers the fight or flight response, signaling your adrenal glands to flood your body with cortisol and adrenaline.
So that is why you feel physically sick to your stomach.
That's the cortisol.
And that's why your heart rate spikes to like 120 beats per minute just because you saw a car that looks like theirs parked on the street.
Your body is biologically preparing you for a physical battle that doesn't exist.
And then, just to add insult to injury, there is the betrayal of sleep.
Oh, sleep's cruel joke.
Seriously. I mean, you would think that sleep would be the one escape. You're exhausted from the cortisol, you finally pass out, hoping for relief.
But the biological reality of sleep consolidation plays a devastating trick on the attached brain.
Walk us through what happens when we sleep.
When you enter deep sleep and REM sleep, your brain acts like a librarian, sorting through the day's memories. It's deciding what to keep and what to throw away. The brain's rule is simple. Keep what is emotionally intense.
Because intense emotion usually correlates with survival information.
Exactly. And throw away what is boring. In this state, your brain actually strengthens emotional memories while actively weakening non-emotional ones.
Wait, it actively strengthens?
Yes, so while you sleep, your brain is actively choosing to engrave the memory of their laugh or the fight you had into your long-term storage.
While completely discarding, like, the mundane tasks you did at work that day.
Precisely.
So you wake up, and the memory of them is literally stronger than it was when you went to sleep.
It's reinforced overnight.
Which brings us right back to the hook. Waking up in the dark, reaching for the phone, already in a state of loss.
The loop starts again.
But I have to push back here, or at least ask the obvious question that the sources address.
Go for it.
If human biology dictates that the brain reacts this severely to losing a partner, why doesn't this happen with everyone we date?
That's a great point.
I mean, we've all had breakups that were just normal. You cry for a week, you eat some ice cream, and you move on.
Right.
What makes certain specific people absolutely impossible to forget?
That is the pivotal question. And it leads us directly into what we call the perfect storm of attachment.
Because it's a very specific dynamic, right?
It is. It is entirely true that not everyone triggers this catastrophic response.
Okay.
The people who become the hardest to get over, the ones who install that virus deepest into your operating system, are almost always the ones who are emotionally unavailable, highly inconsistent, or unpredictable.
The classic hot and cold dynamic.
Yes. Remember how we discussed dopamine and anticipation earlier?
Yeah, the seeking system.
When you are with someone who is consistently loving, secure, and available, your nervous system actually relaxes.
Because it knows what to expect?
Exactly. Your attachment system powers down because it knows you're safe. There is no desperate anticipation because the reward is guaranteed. But when someone is unpredictable, when they are intensely warm, attentive, and loving one day, and then distant, cold, and dismissive the next.
Which is so disorienting.
It is. And it creates the most powerful form of psychological conditioning known to behavioral science. Intermittent reinforcement.
I read about this in the source material, and it instantly made me think of a slot machine.
A slot machine is the perfect psychological parallel. Think about how gambling addiction works.
Okay.
A gambler does not become addicted to a machine that pays out exactly $1 every single time they pull the lever.
No, because that's just a vending machine. It's boring.
Exactly. They become addicted to the unpredictability of the payout.
Sometimes they lose everything, sometimes they win big.
Right. When your unpredictable partner withdrew from you, your brain was flooded with those stress hormones we talked about.
The cortisol, the anxiety, the literal pain of the ACC error alarm.
You were in agony. Then, when they finally came back and gave you a tiny crumb of attention, a text, a smile, a good night together.
It instantly relieved that massive anxiety.
Yes. It created an artificially massive high.
So you aren't actually addicted to them being wonderful.
No.
You are addicted to the relief of the pain that they were causing in the first place.
That is the tragic irony of it.
You are constantly trying to restore the baseline just to feel okay again, and they are the only ones holding the keys to that relief.
The person hurting you becomes the only recognized cure for your pain.
That's so messed up.
It is. And this dynamic is almost always paired with another concept highlighted in the research: future faking.
Oh man, future faking. This one really hit home for me.
It's very common.
It's when the person paints these incredibly vivid, detailed pictures of a future together, right?
Yes.
They talk about the trips you'll take next summer, the kind of house you'll live in, how amazing things will be once work calms down or whatever.
Or once their ex stops bothering them.
Right. But they never actually follow through on any of it.
The mechanism of future faking is devastating because the human brain struggles to distinguish between a vividly imagined future and an actual memory.
Wait, really? The brain can't tell the difference.
Not on a chemical level, no. When they painted those pictures, your brain experienced them as real potential. It released the bonding chemicals based on a reality that hadn't happened yet.
So when the relationship ends, you aren't just mourning the reality of what the relationship was.
Which, let's be honest, was probably pretty stressful and inconsistent.
Exactly. You are mourning the potential. You are grieving a ghost. You're mourning a fantasy that never actually existed in the present moment.
And fantasies are exponentially harder to let go of than reality.
Because reality is flawed.
Right. Reality involves arguments about doing the dishes and paying bills. But the fantasy of what you could have been together, that is always flawless.
But never has to disappoint you.
Never. This ties heavily into trauma bonding, too.
How so?
Well, when a relationship is defined by extreme, chaotic highs and devastating, abandoning lows, your brain gets profoundly confused.
Because of the chemical roller coaster.
Yes. It begins to equate high anxiety drama with deep love. You start feeling like you need to rescue them.
The rescue fantasy.
Right. Or you feel like enduring this incredible emotional turbulence together means you have some sort of rare, soul-deep connection that no one else understands.
I can practically hear someone listening to this right now, gripping the steering wheel, totally pushing back on this idea.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're thinking, no, you don't understand my specific situation. It wasn't just a trauma bond. They were genuinely special.
Right, the we were different argument.
Yeah. Like, we had the exact same obscure taste in 90s cinema. We could communicate across a crowded room just with a look. Isn't it possible that this connection was just a once-in-a-lifetime rarity? And that's why I can't let go.
It is a very normal, almost universal pushback. Our egos want to believe our pain is uniquely profound.
Sure.
But to understand why it feels so rare, we have to look at the scarcity principle and a psychological defense mechanism called projection.
Okay, let's start with the scarcity principle.
Yeah, the scarcity principle dictates that humans assign higher value to things that are rare or hard to obtain.
Basic economics applied to emotions.
Exactly. When someone is withholding, emotionally distant, or hard to pin down, our brain automatically inflates their value.
Right.
A text message from someone who ignores you for 3 days feels infinitely more valuable than a text from someone who replies consistently.
Simply because it's scarce.
Yes.
It's false value created by artificial scarcity.
Exactly. But more importantly, there is projection.
How does projection work here?
When someone gives you a blank slate, when they are ambiguous about their feelings or distant, you inevitably fill in the blanks with your own traits.
Oh, wow.
You project your own immense capacity for deep love, your own loyalty, and your own emotional depth onto them.
So when they pull away.
When they pull away, you assume it's because they are scared of how deep their love is, or that they are hurting as much as you are.
You construct a complex internal narrative for them.
Right, rather than accepting the incredibly boring, painful reality. They simply aren't consistently available to you.
That is brutal.
You are essentially falling in love with your own reflection, cast onto their emotional distance.
Wow. Falling in love with your own reflection, that is a really tough pill to swallow.
It is.
But it's necessary to swallow it. Because this toxic cocktail we're talking about, the intermittent reinforcement, the future faking, the slot machine dopamine, the projection.
It's a heavy mix.
It doesn't just hurt your feelings. It systematically dismantles your actual tangible life.
It really does.
Which brings us to the real-world toll this takes, and the terrifying identity crisis that follows.
If we look at the cognitive cost objectively, the destruction is staggering.
Tell me about it.
We discussed earlier how the brain only has so much processing power, so much working memory.
Right.
When 80% of your daily cognitive capacity is dedicated to ruminating about this person, analyzing their silence, planning what you'll say if they text, your capacity for everything else in your life is decimated.
The cognitive drop-off is so real. I mean, you're sitting in a meeting at work, people are talking to you, and you realize you haven't heard a single word for 10 minutes.
You're completely checked out.
You're dropping the ball on basic tasks. You're making terrible financial decisions.
Oh, the impulse buying.
Yeah, maybe you're impulse buying clothes you think they would like.
Yeah.
Or wasting gas driving past their neighborhood just to see if their car's in the driveway.
And complete decision paralysis sets in.
Yes. You stand in the grocery aisle, unable to choose a brand of pasta because your brain is just totally exhausted from the background processing.
And your social infrastructure collapses too.
Right.
You start canceling plans with good friends just in case the ex texts and wants to hang out.
Which they usually don't.
Exactly. And when you do see your friends, you exhaust them by talking about the exact same person, having the exact same circular arguments about what went wrong for months on end.
You are physically present in your life, but emotionally, you have completely vacated the premises.
That's perfectly said.
But the deepest cut of all, the real tragedy that the source material focuses on, is what psychologists call the identity crisis, or the merger fantasy.
This is the core mechanism of why losing them feels like you are actually dying.
Okay, unpack the merger fantasy for us.
In a healthy relationship, two independent identities overlap. But in an obsessive attachment, the boundary between I and we completely dissolves.
They merge.
Yes. Over time, you stopped asking, what do I want? And instinctively started asking, what do we want? What would they think?
Your entire internal narrative shifted.
Without even realizing it, your fundamental core belief became, I am a person who is incomplete without them.
The sources refer to this as the reflection trap.
Yes.
I thought this is such a profound and terrifying concept. It's this state where your own self-worth only exists when it is being reflected back to you in their eyes.
It's completely outsourced validation.
Right. You only felt smart if they laughed at your joke. You only felt beautiful or attractive if they looked at you a certain way.
You only felt like your life had purpose if they validated it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when they leave and they take that mirror with them, you're left staring into empty space.
You literally cannot see yourself anymore.
That is just terrifying.
The mechanism there is the outsourcing of emotional regulation.
What does that mean, practically?
Well, in a healthy developmental scenario, you learn how to soothe yourself when you're anxious, how to celebrate your own victories, how to maintain your self-esteem.
You self-regulate?
Yes. But in this dynamic, you handed them the remote control to your nervous system.
Wow.
They became your external emotional regulation system. When they left, they didn't just break your heart, they took your ability to feel okay with them.
It's like taking out a massive mortgage on your own identity and using this other person as the collateral.
That's a great analogy.
And when they inevitably default on a loan, the bank takes the house.
Yeah.
You're left completely bankrupt of self. You're sleeping on the floor of an empty life.
That is precisely what the psychological bankruptcy feels like. And when you finally hit that wall, when you recognize that your identity has been hijacked, that you are emotionally bankrupt and your life is stalling out, the panic sets in.
You realize you have to hit the emergency brakes.
You want to stop the looping thoughts.
Right. Which brings us to the pivot.
The how-to.
Exactly. So you're bankrupt. The house is foreclosed. You're waking up in a panic. The big question is, how do we actually reach into the hardware of the brain and turn the power off on a thought?
That's what everyone wants to know.
Knowing why it's happening is great for context, But how do we use tactical neuroscience to break these intrusive loops?
To hack the loop, we first have to map the anatomy of a rumination cycle.
Okay, let's map it.
It is not random. It always follows a very specific, predictable biological sequence. First, there is the trigger.
Like a song or a smell?
Exactly. A trigger can be anything. A song on the radio, the smell of a certain cologne, a specific time of day like Sunday evening.
The evenings are the worst.
They really are. That trigger bypasses your conscious mind and automatically launches an intrusive thought.
Okay.
Now, it is crucial to understand that the initial thought is automatic. You cannot control it popping up.
So don't beat yourself up for having the thought.
Right. But what happens in the next microsecond is where the battle is won or lost.
The engagement phase.
Yes. You engage with the thought. Instead of letting it pass, you grab onto it.
You start analyzing it.
Exactly. You think, why am I thinking about them right now? Are they thinking about me? What if I had just apologized that one night? Would we still be together?
And that cognitive engagement leads directly to the next phase, which is emotional amplification.
Yes. Your body responds to the thoughts by generating the feelings. The intense grief, the spite of anger, the desperate hope.
And human biology dictates that intense emotions demand a resolution.
Which leads to the final phase, resolution seeking.
Which is when you grab your phone, you check their Instagram following to see if it went up, you ask a mutual friend how they're doing, or you send that pathetic just checking in, hope you're well text.
And the tragic mechanism here is that every single time you complete that cycle.
Trigger, thought, engagement, emotion, seeking.
Right. Every time you complete it, you are pouring fresh concrete on that superhighway in your brain.
You're making the loop stronger, faster, and more automatic for the next time.
Exactly.
So how do we break it?
The sources introduce a concept called the 30-second window.
The 30-second window.
The battle for your neuroplasticity is won or lost in the first 30 seconds of the intrusive thought. That is your critical window of opportunity.
Okay, so what do I do in those 30 seconds?
When the thought hits, you must acknowledge it without judgment. You literally say to yourself, okay, my brain is having an attachment thought. My amygdala is firing.
You objectify the thought.
Exactly. You label it as a biological event, and then you immediately redirect your cognitive focus. You cannot allow yourself to analyze the content of the thought.
I absolutely love the tactical hack the sources provide for this. Cognitive load training.
It's incredibly effective.
It relies on the cognitive bottleneck theory, right?
That's the one.
The idea is that your brain's working memory is actually quite limited. It can only hold a few items at a time.
Think of it like RAM in a computer.
Right. So you intentionally overload your working memory with complex, non-emotional data. So the intrusive emotional thought is physically forced out of the bottleneck.
That is the exact mechanism. You are exploiting a limitation in human brain hardware.
So the intrusive thought hits. You're suddenly agonizing over who they are with tonight.
Right.
Immediately, you start counting backwards from 100 by sevens.
193, 86.
79 is surprisingly hard to do.
It takes real focus.
Or you try to name every country you can think of that starts with the letter S.
Spain, Sweden, Senegal, Switzerland.
Exactly. You are forcing your prefrontal cortex to do heavy lifting. You are literally evicting the emotional simulation by using up 100% of your mental RAM on arbitrary facts.
It is highly effective because the brain physically cannot process complex arithmetic and a complex emotional simulation of your ex at the exact same time.
You just don't have the bandwidth.
Right. You are starving the obsessive neural pathway of the electrical energy it needs to run.
But as we all know, sometimes the internal pressure builds to a breaking point.
It happens.
You're exhausted, and counting backwards isn't cutting it. That's when you deploy the 5-minute rule.
Right, because trying to suppress a thought 24/7 can sometimes cause it to rebound harder.
The pink elephant effect.
Exactly. So the 5-minute rule is basically controlled rumination. If you absolutely must obsess, you set a literal timer on your phone for 5 minutes, and you force yourself to write down every single thought furiously on a piece of paper.
Why writing specifically?
The mechanism of writing is key here. When thoughts are just bouncing around in your head, they feel profound and infinite.
Like they're the most important thoughts in the world.
Right. But when you are forced to translate those thoughts into language and put them on paper, you suddenly see them objectively.
Oh, I see.
You see how unoriginal, repetitive, and circular the thoughts actually are. It breaks the illusion that your rumination is somehow solving a puzzle.
It exposes the thoughts as junk data,
Precisely. And while you are doing this, you practice thought labeling.
What's that?
Instead of engaging with the content, instead of asking, is it true they never really cared about me? You take a step back and label the category of the cognition.
Okay, give me an example.
You say, this is fantasy thinking, this is worry thinking, this is nostalgia.
By labeling the thought, you create psychological distance.
Yes. You transition from being the helpless victim of your mind's storm to being the observer watching the storm pass.
It's pure neuroplasticity in action. I really love the analogy of hiking trails in a dense forest.
It's a classic neuroplasticity metaphor.
Right now, because you've obsessed over them for months, the neural pathway dedicated to them is a paved 8-lane superhighway.
Smooth and fast.
Exactly. It is effortless and fast for your brain's electricity to travel down it. Redirection, doing the math, labeling the thoughts, stopping the stalking. That feels like walking off the highway and hacking through thick, thorny brush with a machete.
It is exhausting. It feels completely unnatural.
But if you relentlessly refuse to drive on the highway, eventually biological decay sets in. The weeds grow over the pavement. The highway cracks.
And that new, difficult trail you've been cutting through the brush.
It gets packed down by repeated use.
Yeah.
Eventually, the healthy path becomes the new automatic route.
That is the literal biological science of change. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Neurons that fire apart, wire apart.
Right.
But here's the hard truth we have to face.
Hit me.
Cognitive tricks, playing math games with yourself, writing in journals, they are highly effective for the mind, but they are not enough if your physical body is still screaming in terror.
Oh, absolutely.
You can count backwards from 100 all day long, but if your nervous system is trapped in a state of sheer panic, you are just putting a cognitive band-aid on a physiological bullet wound.
So we have to deal with the body.
We have to regulate the meat suit. We have to regulate the body to achieve true detachment.
Which brings us to the hardest part of the process, the physical art of detachment.
Yes.
Because the word detachment has such a negative connotation, people hear it and think it sounds cold, callous, or like you're turning into an unfeeling robot who never loved them at all.
It is a massive misconception. Detachment is not about being cold or angry or building a wall of resentment.
Right, because resentment is still a connection.
Exactly. Resentment is actually a form of deep attachment. You're still obsessing over them, just negatively.
So what is true detachment?
True detachment is about creating emotional and psychological space. It means you can eventually think about the person or see a photo of them without your nervous system being thrown into chaos.
And the absolute first step of creating that space, and honestly, the most difficult pill to swallow, is radical acceptance.
Radical acceptance.
Accepting that right now, in this exact moment, they are not in your life in the way you want them to be.
Yes. And notice the phrasing there. You are not forcing yourself to accept that they will never, ever come back.
Or that you will never speak again until the end of time.
Right, because the human brain rebels against never. It's too big to process, so the brain fights it.
Panics.
Radical acceptance is just accepting today.
Yeah.
Today, they have chosen not to be here. Today, the future you imagined is not happening. Today, they are a stranger.
When you profoundly accept current reality, you stop expending massive amounts of psychological energy fighting a war against what simply is.
You drop the rope in the tug of war.
I can hear the pushback again, though.
What are they saying?
People are thinking, isn't accepting that it's over, even just for today, the same as giving up? If I accept it, I'm letting them go forever.
Well, it is giving up, but it is giving up the fantasy. And giving up the fantasy is the only way to free up the internal energy you desperately need to actually heal your reality. You have to stop fighting ghosts.
And part of fighting that ghost is countering a specific cognitive distortion the sources highlight. Rosy retrospection bias.
Oh, this happens to everyone.
It really does. A month after the breakup, your brain starts selectively editing a highlight reel.
Yep.
You suddenly only remember the amazing weekend trip to the mountains or how they looked in the morning light. Your brain completely deletes the memory of them ignoring you for 3 days straight or the constant anxiety you felt.
This is why an exercise called memory reprocessing is crucial for detachment.
How do you do that?
When the highlight reel starts playing, you have to actively force your brain to achieve memory balance. You literally sit down and write out the red flags.
The bad stuff.
Yes. You write down the nights you cried yourself to sleep out of confusion. You list the fundamental core needs you had that were consistently unmet. You list the incompatibilities you contorted yourself to ignore.
Now, you aren't doing this just to be bitter or to demonize them, right?
Not at all. You are doing it to break the pedestal. You have to see the whole flawed human picture, not just the Instagram-filtered version your withdrawal panic detachment system is projecting onto the wall.
Memory balance.
Mm.
It's a great tool.
Mm.
But let's get back to the physical body.
Right.
Let's say I've done the memory balance. I'm radically accepting today. But physically, my heart is still pounding out of my chest. I still feel like I'm going to throw up when I think about them with someone else.
Because, as we discussed, your body is trapped in sympathetic activation.
Fight or flight.
The fight or flight switch is stuck in the on-in position. You cannot logic your way out of a physiological response.
So what do you?
You have to speak to your body in a language it understands, which is physical sensation. This is where distress tolerance hacks come in.
Specifically, cold exposure. I know cold plunges are a massive trend right now, but the science behind using it for acute emotional panic is fascinating.
It leverages something called the mammalian dive reflex.
The dive reflex.
Yes. When your face, specifically the area around your eyes and cheeks, is exposed to sudden, intense cold, it stimulates the vagus nerve.
And the vagus nerve is like the brake pedal.
Exactly. It's the main superhighway of your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest system that counteracts fight or flight.
So it's a physical override switch.
It is. It sounds extreme, but when you are spiraling into an intense panic attack about the breakup, go to the bathroom and splash freezing cold water on your face.
Or submerge your face in a bowl of ice water.
Yes, for 10 seconds. Or just tightly grip a piece of ice in your bare hand until it melts.
The intense acute physical sensation forces your brain to drop the emotional simulation and deal with the immediate physical environment.
It rapidly drops your heart rate, and crucially, it proves something to your primitive brain.
What does it prove?
It says, look, I am experiencing intense, shocking discomfort right now, and I am surviving it. I am not dying, and I survived it without texting my ex for comfort.
You are building physiological evidence that you will not die from the pain. You are surviving the wave, which links beautifully to the visual techniques the sources recommend: emotional surfing and the container visualization.
Let's talk about emotional surfing first.
Okay.
When a massive, debilitating wave of grief or panic hits you, your instinct is to fight it, suppress it, or immediately act on it by reaching out.
Right. You want to fix it.
Emotional surfing asks you to do the opposite. You sit down, you close your eyes, and you just notice the physical sensation.
Without judgment.
Without judgment.
Yep.
Where is it tight? Is it your throat? Your chest? You observe the emotion peaking like a wave, and then you watch it naturally subside.
Because all emotions, no matter how intense, have a half-life.
They will pass if you don't feed them with more thoughts.
But what if you are in the middle of a vital presentation at work, or you're driving on the freeway and the wave hits? You can't just close your eyes and surf.
No, you can't. That is when you use the container visualization.
How does that work?
It's a way to quarantine the virus so the operating system can keep running. You mentally construct a highly detailed, heavy steel vault in your mind.
Yeah.
When the overwhelming feelings hit at an inappropriate time, you visualize taking those feelings, placing them inside the vault, shutting the heavy door, and turning the lock.
And then what?
You tell yourself, I am validating these feelings, they are real, but I cannot process them right now at my desk.
Right.
I'm keeping them safe here, and I promise to open this vault at 7 p.m. tonight when I am home, safe, with my journal or my therapist.
You are taking your executive power back from the limbic system.
Exactly.
You dictate when and how you process the pain.
Yes.
But here's the terrifying reality that listeners are going to face.
Okay.
As the nervous system finally calms down, as the cold water works, as the neural pathways shift, and you actually stop thinking about them every single second, they're a massive, echoing void left behind in your life. A huge, empty silence.
Which brings us to the most critical, transformative phase of the entire process.
Filling the void.
Because nature abhors a vacuum. How do we fill that massive void? If we don't fill it intentionally, the obsession will just rush back in.
Right.
We fill it by excavating the authentic self. We move into rebuilding the I and constructing an unbeatable life.
This is the real turning point of the deep dive.
It's where the healing really happens.
This is the shift from codependency to intrinsic, unshakable self-worth. You have to build a life that is so structurally sound, so interesting, that the ghost of your ex can't possibly compete with it.
But you can't build a new life until you figure out who you even are anymore.
The sources call this the pre-relationship inventory.
Think of this step as psychological archaeology.
Archaeology, I like that.
You have to carefully dig through the layers of the personality you constructed to please them, to find the artifacts of who you were before they hijacked your system.
Like, what music did you actually listen to before you adopted all of their obscure favorite bands just to impress them?
Exactly. What hobbies or passions did you drop because they thought it was silly, or more likely, because it took time away from waiting around for them to text you?
What were your life goals before your only goal became make this relationship work at all costs?
It is incredibly jarring.
And frankly embarrassing to realize how much of your authentic self you surrendered just to keep the peace or keep their attention.
It happens so slowly you don't even notice.
To get that self back, the sources suggest something I want to challenge every single person listening to do this week: the Solo Experience Challenge.
This is essentially a form of exposure therapy.
Really?
Yes, you have to deliberately, intentionally do things alone that you used to associate strictly with companionship.
Like going to a movie theater alone.
Yes, and buy the popcorn just for yourself. Take yourself to a nice sit-down dinner alone, and no scrolling on your phone to look busy. Just you and your thoughts.
Go on a weekend road trip entirely by yourself.
Exactly.
I love this, because comfort in solitude is the ultimate bulletproof antidote to desperation.
It absolutely is.
If you genuinely enjoy your own company, if you can sit alone at a restaurant and feel at peace, you will never again tolerate someone treating you poorly just to avoid being alone on a Friday night.
That is the core of intrinsic worth. And as you spend this time alone, you need to engage in the hard work of clarifying your core values versus your goals.
Okay, what's the difference?
A goal is an external achievement. I want to get a promotion, or I want to be married by 30.
And a value.
A value is an internal compass metric. I value creativity, I value personal freedom, I value deep authenticity.
Why is the distinction between goals and values so important for getting over someone?
Because when you know your core values, your decision-making becomes incredibly fast and clear. You evaluate everything against those values.
Give me an example.
Does this inconsistent person align with my core value of stability and honesty? No. Does checking their Instagram align with my core value of mental freedom? No.
If it doesn't align, it gets cut.
Cut it out completely.
And when you start living ruthlessly by those values, you trigger what the research calls the compound effect of intrinsic worth.
This is where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Think about the sheer volume of mental, emotional, and physical energy you were pouring down the black hole of obsessing over this person.
It was exhausting.
It was a massive expenditure with zero return. Now imagine taking all of that reclaimed energy and investing it into areas of your life that actually give you a tangible return on investment.
It's explosive growth.
Yeah.
I mean, you pour that redirected energy into your career, and suddenly you're accelerating, you're sharper in meetings.
You pour it into the gym or your physical health, and your body transforms, your cortisol drops.
You put it into your neglected friendships,
Yeah.
and your social network blossoms into a real support system.
You pick up a paintbrush or a guitar, or you start writing again, and you actually express your own soul.
What you are systematically building is an abundance mindset, rooted in structural stability.
Exactly. When your identity was entirely wrapped up in being their partner, when they were the only pillar holding up the roof of your life.
Losing them meant the entire house collapsed.
Losing them meant losing 100% of yourself.
Right.
But when your identity has multiple strong, independent pillars, you are a dedicated professional, a fiercely loyal friend, a creative artist, a physically healthy individual, the loss of one romantic relationship cannot threaten your entire sense of self.
The structural integrity of your life remains perfectly sound.
It holds up.
I want the listener to really picture this.
Yeah.
You've done the grueling work. You've built this amazing, independent, structurally sound life.
You're in a good place.
You are emotionally sovereign. You're surfing the waves of emotion when they come. But they are small now. You're enjoying your solo dinners. You are finally truly at peace.
And then,
A random Tuesday night, your phone buzzes on the table. You look down at the screen.
and it's them.
It's the ultimate test. They always come back, don't they? Why does it feel like a universal law that the exact moment you are truly over them, they reappear?
It feels like magic, but it's actually a highly predictable psychological pattern known as the return pattern.
The return pattern.
Just when you have finally detached, when you have taken all of your energetic focus off of them, They sense the shift in the dynamic.
How do they sense it? Do they have a radar?
In a way, yes, especially if you are still loosely connected on social media or through mutual friends, but fundamentally it is driven by ego validation.
Ego validation.
For months, they knew they had you on the hook. They knew you were waiting on their shelf as a reliable backup option.
Right.
But as you withdraw your energy and build your own life, that tether goes slack. They sense that you have taken your power back.
And that threatens them.
That shift in power subtly threatens their ego. So they reach out, usually with something incredibly low effort, a breadcrumb text like, hey, saw a dog that looked like yours, or a vague thinking of you, hope you're okay.
Breadcrumbs.
They aren't reaching out because they had a grand epiphany about your value. They are reaching out to see if the leash is still securely attached to your collar. They just want to check if you are still an option.
And even if you know exactly what they're doing, seeing their name on your screen throws you into an absolute tailspin.
Of course it does.
If you're listening to this on your commute right now, your heart might be beating a little faster just imagining that text popping up. That spike in your chest isn't weakness. So what do you actually do when it happens?
The absolute first non-negotiable line of defense is the 24-hour rule.
The 24-hour rule.
You never, under any circumstances, respond immediately. When that text comes through, your nervous system is going to undergo a massive chemical event.
The dopamine and cortisol.
You are going to flood with a confusing mix of dopamine, cortisol, desperate hope, and intense anxiety. You are, biologically speaking, emotionally intoxicated.
And the prefrontal cortex, your rational decision-making center, goes offline.
Exactly.
And you do not make life-altering decisions while intoxicated.
Never. You wait a minimum of 24 hours. You need that time for the cortisol to process out of your bloodstream and for the prefrontal cortex to regain control from the panicked limbic system.
And when you are rational again the next day, you have to look at the message and distinguish between what the sources call closure versus reopening.
This distinction will literally save your life.
What's the difference?
A genuine attempt at closure, or a genuine desire to make amends and rebuild, looks like consistent high-effort behavior. It looks like them explicitly acknowledging the specific harm they caused.
Not just hope you're okay.
Right. It looks like them respecting your boundaries and communicating directly and honestly about their intentions.
And what's reopening?
Reopening is just the breadcrumb. It is them trying to reactivate your attachment system without doing any of the real emotional work, without apologizing, and without changing their behavior in any meaningful way.
And here's the thing that trips people up. Even if you handle it perfectly, even if you wait 24 hours, realize it's just a breadcrumb, and you decide to leave them on read or block them, you are still going to feel a massive spike of anxiety.
Yes, you are.
Your heart is going to race for a few days. You're going to feel like you just lost all of your hard-earned progress and are back at square one.
But you have to understand that you haven't lost your progress.
You haven't.
No. The wave pattern of healing guarantees these exact spikes. Healing from attachment is not a straight upward line, it is a tightening spiral.
A tightening spiral.
Feeling an intense wave of attachment or panic when they reach out is not a regression. It is simply your psyche processing a massive trigger.
It's the amygdala reacting to old data.
Yes, it is the natural, necessary cycle of integrating all the psychological changes you've made. You use the tools, you splash the cold water, you surf the wave, you do the math, and you will find that the wave passes much, much faster than it used to.
What used to ruin your month now only ruins your afternoon.
Exactly.
I like to frame the return pattern with this metaphor.
Let's hear it.
Responding to a vague, low-effort breadcrumb text when you are 90% healed is exactly like walking back into a casino to use one single free spin after you have spent a year successfully kicking a crippling gambling addiction.
That's spot on.
You know exactly what the inside of that casino smells like.
Yeah.
You know exactly what happens to your brain if you pull that lever. Is it really worth risking the entire beautiful, stable house you've rebuilt just for the momentary, cheap thrill of watching the spinning wheels?
It rarely is. The cost of admission is your peace of mind.
Exactly.
Which is why the ultimate goal of all this work isn't just to be alone forever.
Right, it's about moving forward.
It is to prepare you for safe, new, healthy relationships based on the principle of independence before interdependence.
You have to be fully, solidly independent with your own intrinsic worth before you can securely and safely connect with someone else.
But there is a massive catch here that the sources warn about.
Oh yeah. When you finally do meet someone healthy, it can feel really, weird, almost wrong.
Yes, and this confuses so many people. If your brain has spent years addicted to the trauma bond, addicted to intermittent reinforcement and the chaotic highs and lows of a toxic person, your baseline for love is anxiety.
So when you meet a healthy person with green flags, someone who is consistent, someone who texts you back immediately, someone who says exactly what they mean and does what they say,
They're going to feel boring to your nervous system.
your brain is sitting there waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's waiting for the panic.
Right.
And when the panic doesn't come, your brain misinterprets that piece as a lack of romantic chemistry. You think, well, I guess there's no spark.
Because the spark you were used to is actually just the cortisol of an activated attachment system.
That's a huge realization.
It is. You have to literally, consciously retrain your brain to be attracted to peace.
Retrain the attraction.
You have to pace your physical and emotional vulnerability. You have to learn to evaluate a new partner based on their actual consistent present-day behavior over time, rather than falling in love with the fantasy of their potential in week one.
You have to realize that anxiety is not butterflies.
Yeah.
It's just anxiety.
Exactly. You build trust gradually, brick by brick, rather than trauma bonding instantly in a shared hurricane.
Which brings us to the profound end of this journey,
Yeah.
the ultimate transformation.
Yes.
Because if you actually commit to this, if you do the grueling cognitive load training when the thoughts hit, if you suffer through the cold exposure to reset your nervous system, if you practice radical acceptance of today, and if you take yourself on those solo dates to rebuild your identity, you achieve something far greater than just getting over an ex.
You achieve emotional sovereignty.
Emotional sovereignty.
You have fundamentally, biologically proven to your own brain that you do not need anyone else to regulate your inner state. You are the master of your own emotional landscape.
You know that you can handle the absolute worst depths of heartbreak and survive it.
And paradoxically, knowing that you can survive the worst makes you completely fearless in love moving forward.
You haven't just moved on. You have physically restructured the neural pathways in your brain.
Yes, the rewiring is complete.
You have built a nervous system that is resilient to unpredictable dopamine spikes. And in doing so, you realize the most mind-bending, liberating truth of all.
And what's that?
The person you were obsessively attached to, the person you thought you were going to die without, they weren't the love of your life.
No, they weren't. They were just the catalyst. They were the friction required for your growth.
The love of your life is the relationship you have built with yourself.
That's the one.
It is the only relationship that is guaranteed to last from your very first breath to your absolute last. Every other connection, no matter how beautiful, is just an addition to that rock-solid foundation, never a replacement for it.
You survived the complete dissolution of your identity. You didn't just rebuild the old house, you built a fortress.
Yeah.
You excavated your most authentic self from under the rubble of someone else's inconsistency. You are finally, truly free.
So we want to leave you with one final provocative thought to carry with you today.
Think all the way back to that visceral image we started with.
Waking up in the dark. Reaching blindly for the phone.
The tight chest, the panic, the scrolling.
The crushing feeling of being totally powerless and entirely dependent on a ghost. If all of that pain, all of that agonizing biological obsession was just the necessary fire required to burn away the version of you that was willing to settle for breadcrumbs.
So that you could be introduced to the strongest, most authentic, unbreakable version of yourself.
What incredible thing are you going to do with this new version of you tomorrow?